Thank you. Okay, so thank you very much. So we are now recording. So as just to reiterate what I'd already said, firstly, thank you everybody for joining, and also we are recording the session today. So if for any reason you are not comfortable with being recorded, please feel free to just drop off the call and rejoin watching the recording back once it's available on the Working in Mortgages website, and we'll let you know when that's available. Delighted to have everybody here today for our May Lunch and Learn. Today shines a spotlight on one of our mortgage industry's most dynamic and certainly fastest growing community networks, the South Asian Mortgage Professionals and Allies Network. So thank you very much to Gurpreet and Dina for hosting this session today. Essentially, the session gives you an opportunity to understand a bit more about what the network does, to meet its founders, and also to hear really firsthand about what the network's ambitions are for 2026 and beyond. It's open for everybody to be able to learn today. Whether you're curious about purpose or just interested in being an ally, you should definitely get value from today's session. There will also be an opportunity to ask questions at the end, so please do have a think about that as the session progresses, and then Gurpreet and Dina will be able to answer your questions as we get to the end of the session. So without further ado, Dina and Gurpreet, I will hand over to you guys.
Thank you, Nick. I will just get the slides sharing and then we can kick off. Oh, they're not. Can we see that, Dina?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Spot on. Right. So yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Delighted to be on the Lunch and Learn webinar today. So just a quick introduction. I'm Gurpreet, Chahal, Regional Sales Manager within Accord Mortgages, and alongside Paul and Dina, one of the founders of the South Asian Mortgage Professional and Allies Network. And I'm joined by Dina, if you want to do a quick intro.
Hi everyone, so I'm Dina Bhudia from P2M Asset Management, a small brokerage based in Hertfordshire, and I'll hand it back to Gurpreet.
Thank you. So yeah, I will jump onto our agenda. So so over the next sort of 20-25 minutes or so, and we have got time for questions at the end, we're going to be covering off, a bit of background and rationale in terms of South Asian Mortgage Professionals and Allies Network, so SAMPAN, some of our goals and objectives, our plans, so both covering off what we did in 2025, but what's coming in 2026, and probably more importantly, sort of, how you can support and play a role within SAMPAN, and take any questions at the end as well. I do also want to stress at this point, I think there's some fantastic work going on in our industry, with Working in Mortgages leading the way to connect it all together. With the support from Nick, Steph, Dom, Sabrina, and the rest of the team as well, who've been huge advocates and supporters of our network. But there's also other initiatives like BAMPAN, Pride in Finance, and big shout outs to Jason and Charlie doing day 2 of the Mimic Walk today on World Mental Health Week as well. So there's a lot going on in terms of the D&I space within our industry, and that's something we should be really, really proud of. So moving back to SAMPAN, so in terms of our background, and I guess a little bit around the why. So South Asians, or the South Asian community, make up around about 7.5% of the UK population. So that's over 5 million people across the UK. And in fact, I think Asian ethnic group is now probably the fastest growing ethnic group in England and Wales. So when we kind of think about that, they're not very sort of marginal or small numbers at all. I think these numbers demonstrate that these are communities right at the heart of modern day Britain. So right across the UK. But when we sort of look around at home ownership and representation in the mortgage industry as well, in the protection industry, I think the picture looks slightly uneven. So looking at sort of the corporate space, if we look at sort of South Asian representation, I think we've got a lot of representation across the industry, but there does seem to be that sort of bottleneck at middle management. So we have colleagues coming in at entry level, potentially progressing to middle management, etc., but then struggling to find sort of opportunities to move into senior management. And I think one of the questions we've been asking ourselves, okay, so why is that? And we continue to ask ourselves that as well. If you look at people from a South Asian demographic that are trying to get onto the property ladder, we also have heard anecdotally and saw as well that some people do struggle because they face some barriers. The barriers are, pretty varied, really. I think there's some cultural nuances that sometimes lenders, providers are unable to understand and potentially get to grips with, things like intergenerational living or pooling of funds for deposits. So when a lender might think, oh, this is a bit risky or this doesn't make sense for a lot of the South Asian community, it is the norm and there's nothing sort of untoward behind it. It's just the way sort of things are done. Then if you look at sort of the advice element, I think there can be, or there definitely is a language barrier as well. So if you're a person of a South Asian demographic and then English is not your first language, then accessing advice from an advisor can be tough. So a lot of the time we've heard stories where a potential client, potential customer will go to an English speaking advisor. They'll try and kind of muddle through it, try and understand what they can do to sort of access that advice. Or often it's left to other family members as well. So a lot of the time that'll be children. So because normally, children going to school, they'll pick up English even if it's not their first language. And I think I remember back to when I was a kid, trying to translate to for my dad at the age of sort of 7 or 8 on a number of different financial matters. So thinking about that doesn't feel right at all, and that sort of shows you some of the barriers there. If we look at it from I guess, a business perspective, the UK mortgage market is projected to grow significantly over the next sort of, 3 to 5 years. So, if you look at it from a commercial perspective, if we don't try and address some of these disparities now, we're leaving, a massive commercial opportunity behind. But I guess fundamentally, importantly, a lot of people behind in their sort of quest for home ownership as well. And I think when we look at, again, representation of colleagues in our industry, it's just we all sort of come back to that question, is that representation at all levels? Is it where decisions are being made? All those kind of things. So if we haven't got a seat at the table where decisions are being made, so how can we try and influence some of those decisions as well? And I think one of the things that probably resonates to me, where I really, wanted to try and do something and make a difference, was being at an event and doing a platform presentation, and then a couple of brokers coming to me from a South Asian demographic and heritage and just saying, amazing to see somebody like us, but basically talking and saying that, they felt they'd already sort of reached their ceiling. They were in an employed sort of role and felt like they had nowhere to go. So these are some of the stories which I think, exist throughout colleagues from a South Asian heritage or a demographic background, and basically is what sort of led us to look at SAMPAN. So this is where SAMPAN sort of comes in, and together with Paul and Dina, we launched SAMPAN last year. And in terms of what we want to do, our mission is pretty simple, but I think we're hoping very powerful as well. So firstly, it's around representation and visibility. So although we know we're not where we want to be, we have got some fantastic talent from a South Asian community, within our industry as well. So we really want to use the network to showcase that talent. We want to sort of support the development and promote that talent as well, to hopefully create role models for other people looking in as well. From a representation perspective, we want to use the platform to sort of lift each other up and celebrate that talent as well. So whether that's trying to support people into new roles, whether that's trying to support people going up for awards, etc. as well, it's just trying to support in any sort of way we can do as well. The second sort of aim is, just like in line with working in mortgages, is to encourage new entrants into the market. So new talent that either might be starting off their sort of career or potentially might be working in a different industry, but are looking at a different career choice. And I guess one of our goals is to try and make the mortgage industry and the protection industry a career of choice for South Asians, as opposed to a career of default, which we've heard lots of stories from, loads of communities where they've said they didn't really want to be in the mortgage industry. They sort of fell into the mortgage industry. And I think historically, when we look at from a South Asian demographic background, typically it's not an industry that's promoted within our communities, because you'll find that a lot of the parents, grandparents have probably migrated into the country and done sort of manual labor, etc. There's a lot of focus around education on STEM subjects, and then the typical sort of career paths that are very highlighted a lot are, your doctors, your solicitors, your accountants, etc. as well, which, there's nothing to take away from those professions. They're amazing professions, but we also know that our industry is really, it's an amazing industry to work in. There's a lot of purpose in our industry as well. You know, we help people from all different backgrounds find a home for themselves as well. So we really want to try and promote that into our community as well. And excuse me. And we did speak at our latest event, and we heard some fantastic stories about how colleagues didn't go down this sort of typical education route and found their way into our industry as well. So we want to try and promote the industry to try and help more people to have that career of choice. And the third element we've got is around sort of education and allyship. And I think like a lot of the networks, we fundamentally believe this will help to support and educate leaders within businesses or brokers to better serve these communities as well. So we can really serve all the sort of customers across the UK. I think the other thing I just wanted to cover on is on this part as well. There is again work already that's taking place. I remember speaking to a couple of brokerages earlier on this year, and they're sort of setting up a specific arm of their business, which is a bilingual arm to help support potential customers that can't speak English as well. And that's not just nuanced towards South Asian clients or customers as well. I think it's Eastern European customers as well. So we're already doing work there to make that advice much more accessible, and they're doing work on their website as well in different languages again to make that information more accessible as well. So that's sort of what we're looking to do. And what I will do now is just hand over to Dina to talk through some of the bits that have taken place.
Thank you for that, Gert. So October last year, we hosted our first ever event. Actually, Paul and Gert are most probably more confident than me, to be fair, because it was a big milestone for me on a personal perspective. Just being part of a larger community was all, I was only a couple of years into a larger community, being part of DIF, and actually being a minority in the room. Then this became a platform for us to sort of, I met Kurtz, Paul, we decided that we need to do something, So we launched our event in October at Lloyd's Banking Group. We had Jazz Singh, who actually spoke about his journey. So it was one of the very few times that we've actually seen someone of such high stature telling us their story. And something that came out very common in all the stories at that event was fitting in. Everyone mentioned the word, I didn't fit in. How do I fit in? And I'm sure this resonates with many of you. Coming out of that event, though, the amount of allies we had on our first event was tremendous. It was so overwhelming to see a room of relationships that we had nurtured over the years actually come together, which I suppose for me personally, it showed that there's a lot of support. The support is there. I just need to embrace it. We just need to elevate it. So after our first event, we were oversubscribed. We had great speakers. We had Hitten, we had Sonia, who were also great icons for the industry, really doing some amazing things. And we thought, right, we need to now get moving. So post-event feedback, a lot of the feedback was, when are you going to do your next event? I think that's the same feedback that we received this time round. And we had to make a conscious effort of going somewhere beyond London, because the density of our South Asian diaspora is not just within the London M25 area. And also there's a saying, isn't it? Those who live in the M25 don't go beyond. So I suppose I had to make a point with that. Paul and Gurp said, no, it's okay. I'm going to come up to the Midlands. I'm going to go beyond the M25. So we decided that we would host an event in Midlands, which only happened last week. So we got the Midlands. Oh, there we are. So last week, again, thank you to Paragon Bank and our co-sponsors, was our second event, where we actually moved forward from our first event. It wasn't just about stories. We had some amazing stories from three people, Aj, Kiran and Preeti, trying to make sure that we have a mix of, BDMs, employees, senior level, and also brokers. Soon realizing that it was becoming quite a challenge to get people to speak. So clearly we could see that there's a confidence issue, that people were very nervous. Many of those who were in the industry, it was actually their first time speaking in a panel discussion, which I found quite alarming, actually. So I could already see that we as a community need to start promoting our own and allowing platforms like this and Working in Mortgages and many other platforms to promote. So going from that, as a broker, speaking to other small firms, there were certain things that people were concerned about. One is recruitment. Recruitment was general, from recruiting a diverse pool of people to how the methods of recruitment. A small business, I was saying last week that generally the way we tend to recruit is who we know. And, we would possibly go to the temples or the mosques or the synagogues and think, well, actually, does anyone know somebody? I'm looking for someone. It was about the trusted person, which isn't necessarily the correct way, and finding the correct skill sets. So we did a session talking about recruitment. So we had Pete came on board and did a great session on how to recruit, actually learning to value yourself. There was a key message that possibly many of us in the room don't know how to value ourselves, and we don't actually back ourselves, let alone back each other. So there were some key messages there. Then we also had a session on apprenticeships. So a couple of years ago, I'd actually connected with an academy where apprenticeships were spoken about. I suppose traditionally I've always thought that, it's an expensive exercise and the government doesn't give us anything for nothing. So it was a big taboo with apprenticeship schemes, and we were like, oh, is it only just for young people? Is it only for people coming into the industry? So there was a big session last week, and it was an eye-opener for many, how apprenticeships actually can be great for all talent, people changing the industry, young people, and it could be for all levels, from financial administrators to mortgage advisors to protection advisors. That session actually went down very, very well. From that, I've actually had many a broker message me and say, well, Dina, can I just have a one-to-one Teams meeting, because I want to ask you something about that and how it works. One key thing I found from that session was a lot of people thought an apprenticeship, you recruit them and it's funded by the government. Yes, you do get some funding, but I think the key difference of some of the apprenticeships is actually they do a lot of personal development. They're actually teaching these apprenticeships about timekeeping, effective communication, assertiveness. So there's other softer skills which, as we all know, in our industry are actually more important, because it's all about our relationships and how we get on with our clients, our peers, which really came across, which a lot of the business owners found it quite refreshing, because they thought if they have to recruit, they also have to commit that time. On a broker perspective, time is money. I think that session went down really well, and I'm hoping a lot of brokers will sort of open their wings and start looking at different ways of recruiting. We also had a great, not so much a session, but we spoke about the other platforms that many didn't know about: the diversity investment finance forums, the podcasts, the website, also joining, being part of the journey to be at the forefront. I think brokers, whether it be South Asian or just from my network, we are quick to moan. We're quick to moan about lenders. We're quick to moan about the industry, what's going on. But we don't realise how much impact we can actually have and be a voice at the table. And I think, on my perspective, that was the key message I was trying to send out, that look, we need to be part of this, and you can't make changes if you're not part of this journey. So we need to collaborate, we need to move together, and once we move together, we can then look to get to the higher levels, start becoming a voice. And I think Paul and Gurps and I really solidified that, and we found the energy in the room was really quite excitable, and people were automatically actually joining our LinkedIn, the Working in Mortgages, the review, that was all there, and a lot of people didn't know. So it is about making sure that we do talk about these things going forward. Thank you, Gurps. Is it me or you? Can't remember. Is it me? Gurps?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think where we need your support is exactly where you are with us today, holding our hands through this journey, amplifying our messages, sharing, messaging, and joining our LinkedIn. And wherever you feel that there is an opportunity for us to either come and speak, or even to drop anyone within your network circle, within your organizations from the South Asian diaspora, and not just from that diaspora, it really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we are advocating an inclusive society. So the more we join hands and talk to each other and understand each other, the better we can make a big difference in our industry. So if you guys have all got your I know many of you may have your cameras off, but you can have your mobiles out and join our LinkedIn page. We'll be grateful. I'm so excited. We're on 129 people who've joined our page. If we could make it to 200, which we possibly could, that would be great. Oh, thanks, Gurps. I think we're ready for questions.
Yep, we'll open it up for questions.
Oh, great.
Assuming everyone's scanning the QR code to join the LinkedIn page.
Perfect.
Nick?
Thank you very much, first of all. Really interesting, loads of thought-provoking stuff in there. I think one of the things that resonates with me really is about kind of that representation challenge. Do you think that's more about hiring? Do you think that's about progression? Or do you think that's about leadership, visibility, or all of the above?
I think it's a mixture. So I think there's an element of where, fundamentally, are we getting enough people in at the start of their sort of career into our industry is probably questionable. I think we get a decent number, but then how many of them do they exit? And then the question is, why do they exit? Do they exit because they can't sort of progress through the ranks, etc. as well? And then I think from a senior leadership perspective, definitely there's work we need to do there. I remember he just was at the DIF annual review as well last week, wasn't it? Just speaking to Atlin about some of the work like SAMPAN are doing. It's very, very similar in terms of, seeing colleagues stuck in that sort of middle management level as well. So I think there's an element of trying to get more people into the industry, but then having sort of clear progression routes for them as well. So supporting them, providing development programs, and then hopefully getting some like visible role models at the top as well, so they can try and reach them too.
I think I'd just like to add to that, Nick, on a sort of general industry perspective, when we go to events and been invited to awards or various different things, I think those who select who are to sit on their table or sponsor tables, I think they need to consciously be aware and consciously ensure that we have a diverse representation in the room, because something that, maybe not so much now, but over the years, you can pretty much, as a broker going into the room, you can pretty much identify which lenders are consciously making efforts and some lenders that may not be. Regardless of diversity, it could be even gender equality. There's still today many tables that, generally just have men on them. So I think it's just about thinking of these things going forward. So there's different ways that we can actually, just be a little bit more inclusive and be, we still have that fit in. We all still familiar with our own. So when you do walk into a room, everyone feels a little bit more equal to, where we were in the journey many years ago.
Yeah, 100% agree. Nick P.
Hi, yeah, it was really, really good, really, really interesting. Thank you very much for sharing it all. It's probably not a dissimilar question, but I think the really interesting part when you were talking, GURPS, about the kind of reputation of the industry within the community and thinking about that as a future career, and the fact that it doesn't come up as maybe in the top 3 or 4 kind of professions or careers to pursue. Is there anything that working in mortgages group you think could do, to try and change that a little bit and make it feel like it is financial services generally is a career that is a good one to pursue and one that has the opportunity to allow you to build a proper career in the longer term?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if it's a job for working in mortgages or everybody, but I think, you know, at our recent event, we were talking about that everybody's got a role to go back to their families, their friends, their communities, and basically selling our industry for what it is. You know, it's a fantastic industry when we can genuinely, you know, we can change people's lives. We do change people's lives by giving them a home. But I think sometimes there's been a stigma in the past that potentially, you know, you've got to go into these other professions because you earn more money, but that's not the case either. I think you can have you can earn a good living, you know, in our industry as well. So I think it's maybe getting rid of some of these stigmas. And I know, like within working in mortgages, Dom's doing some work where they're going out to schools, etc., as well, and teaching them. So I think there's an element there's going into sort of secondary schools and getting the children to understand, you know, that this career is very, very purposeful, and it might not have the, I guess, the historic sort of nuance that some of the other careers do, but you can do really, really well in our sort of industry too. Dina, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think, you know, as someone within the industry, South Asian perspective, there's a lot of work we ourselves need to do in terms of reaching out. And I think this is a start, I suppose. And Gurpreet and I and Paul were talking about how we can do smaller workshops and actually get a lot of action in terms of, you know, what is it that we can do to go out and celebrate our careers initially. And I know many brokers do go out to schools and do things on a careers development, but whether they're doing them at the level that we need them to be right at the beginning, or is it something that's done later on at a work level, where I agree with sort of Dom's view on it's at the school level that we need to start opening the conversations, really.
Yeah, and I always go back to saying that I was once I got off somebody else, and it's like you can't be what you can't see. So I think, you know, the more we can get out to communities, workplaces, schools, whatever, then you just sort of show young people, or even family members, oh, we'd want our kids to be like this as well, successful. Val?
Great session, guys. Being from a South Asian background, as yourselves, I've been in the banking and financial service industry since I was 18, so come to 13 years now. And firsthand, no, sorry, 22 years, sorry. Firsthand, I can kind of tell you about the barriers I face myself and how those have overcome. And as you mentioned, kind of educating companies, communities. I think we also need to look into education within our own community as well, of the mortgage sector, financial services sector, because I get quite a lot of clients, because I'm a broker, who are of South Asian descent, who have come from abroad, and there's a language barrier, there's a knowledge barrier, there's a confidence aspect of where they go and get that advice. And being able to deliver that advice firsthand and getting them on the property ladder, it's been invaluable for them. And I recently approached a local temple where I said, look, I'm, as a community business, happy to kind of come here, set up a session where I can essentially educate people within my community and also give them advice as well if they want to get on the property ladder. And I was, from a senior kind of leader within the temple, was like, well, mortgage advisors don't have a really good reputation. That will then come back on them as a temple. And I think it's about educating those higher up as to the value of what we do, and that we are kind of financial professionals, not kind of back alley mortgage brokers that they might have kind of seen bad stories of. And I think that's something we can do within our own community ourselves.
Yeah, it's probably stigmas from like decades ago, right, that people are still holding on to. So that's a very, very valid point. I can't believe you tried to like shave 8 years off your age as well there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I can relate to that. And as Gurp said, it is historic, you know, subprime days, self-cert days, you know, there's a reputation that hasn't left us just yet. But again, we've got to do that. You know, it's us and it's us within the industry. We've got to take responsibility of that, which, it becomes a little bit of a tough one, but keep persevering.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, everyone that's a mortgage advisor is qualified to do their job, and I think that's what we, you know, it's a professional. So I think that's the sort of word we need to get out there, that it's not just somebody who's just sat there giving advice. You've got to take CMAP. You've got years of experience, etc. You've got to know your stuff. Angelica?
Hello, thank you so much both for delivering this. That was really great. Just a very quick one. If, as an ally, if we want to promote this network, or if we know someone who would like to join the network, is it just the LinkedIn page that you've got for now? Is that so? Just follow the LinkedIn page, or is there another way that people can join the network?
Yeah, I think the LinkedIn page is the first point of call. So please do follow that, because we're going to try and promote everything on there. We have asked Wim if we can potentially, I think it's later on down the line, if we can have a page on the website as well, because I think there's some fantastic resources on the Wim site as well. So we want to sort of point people back into that direction. But speaking on behalf of me, Paul, and Dina, we're happy for anybody to reach out to us as well. And happy to sort of have a chat about how people can get involved, or if there's any support that they need as well, because sometimes it might be they just need a chat or chat things through, and then we can point them in the right direction of relevant colleagues as well. Thank you. Is that it for questions? Oh, there's one more. Nuha?
Hi, that was a great session, guys, and I'm very new to this industry, if you can't
Welcome.
already tell by my baby face. So I started a month ago, so it's very, very new. And as a graduate, it's really nice to see that there's inclusivity. I think that's the first thing. This is the first corporate thing where South Asian community has been spotlighted, and I think that's really interesting and nice to see as a young person. The thing I wanted to touch on was the apprenticeships. Now, I'm 24, so my parents always told me, go to university, get a degree, go that route. And I have younger siblings, and now with the way that the economy's working, the hard fight that graduates have to do after university to get a job, I do think the apprenticeships that are out there aren't talked about a lot in our communities at all. In the wider sector, but also just in mortgage industry in of itself. And I think the question was really, how do you think we can expand that? How do you think we can show younger people that apprenticeships in general, but also getting involved in them if they don't want to go to university, if they want a different career path, if they want to try something out in the mortgage industry, what do you think the best way is to do that, really?
I think sessions like we did at the event definitely helps, but again, it's back to going into the school environment. When these students have their careers choices and they do their GCSEs and they're not trying to navigate when the next step is, would actually be the key place to have these conversations. And apprenticeships just generally are underrated, sadly, but they're actually absolutely amazing. And this tends to be a little bit of a stigma. I mean, I can only speak for South Asian, but it doesn't seem to be, the key thing is a degree. Why is apprenticeship sort of the next step down? Because it actually isn't, and it shouldn't be thought of that way. And it's, again, historical things that have just been embedded into culture. And we need to unlearn that thinking for the young people to feel quite confident and say, well, actually, do you know what? I'm going to be doing an apprenticeship scheme, and I'm going to focus on my career going forward. I actually don't think it's so much of the apprentice. Is it the apprenticeship person? But it's more it's more the perception. It's more, those who look at you and say you're doing an apprenticeship rather than you're going to university. And we need to equalize that thought process. But it's people like you that can go out there and get those messages out. So
yeah, I 100% agree. 100% agree with that. I think it's just a historic sort of cultural thing where, because our parents might have worked in manual labor, etc., they wanted their children to do better, so they automatically defaulted to go to university, have a better living than me, blah blah blah. But I think I'm of the same opinion. Like my brother's 24, 25, and I said to him, just unless you're going to do a specific profession, go down the apprenticeship route. And he has done. So I think it's you get practical skills and you get paid and you're not in debt, so win-win.
Yeah, I said the same thing to my younger sister doing her GCSEs, to be fair. And I think she didn't even realize it was an option. And my parents really did kind of be like, oh, don't do that. But I'm like, why do you want the debt if you're not gonna use it for something else? And I come from a chemistry background, so it's very, very different to anything that I've been taught. But thank you for that, and thank you for the insight as well.
Well, thank you. Chris?
Brilliant. Thanks, Gurps. And just as people have mentioned already, fantastic work you're doing here to raise awareness and create support for colleagues and for members and potential members across the industry. I think from my point of view, it's less of a question, more of just a sharing of my thoughts and how I can help and support as an ally, really. And you talked about 150 odd people that are part of the LinkedIn group. We've got to increase that. We've got to get that reach out, and I'll certainly help by sharing the stories of today across my network and my teams, and encourage them to get involved and to share the messages that are coming out. And if you're a member of that LinkedIn page, you're going to be updated. You're going to see on your feed, aren't you, bits of information. You might watch a bit of a video and find out more. So I think at the very least, those of us that aren't, we can join the LinkedIn group, and also share the messages out with our teams and encourage curiosity and interest. So thanks for what you're doing, and I'll certainly do my bit to help.
Thank you, Chris. That's much appreciated.
Annika?
Hiya guys, hopefully you can hear me. My internet's not too bad. Congratulations on starting and your first year, excellent self. What I want you to know is, how are you finding the support and the partnerships? Are you getting a good movement? Obviously Chris has just said he's going to help you guys grow, but can you see the industry really getting behind you to support your initiatives and goals? Obviously, as a co-founder of Benpan, we're kind of on the same journey, starting a bit before you, so we know what the growing pains are. But I just wondered if it was different for you.
I think, the first event for Definite, the fact that it was in London, we had a lot of support, and it was great to see so many, people from the industry joining. Second event, again, Midlands was a little bit more challenging, I would say, for me personally, because I had to drive up. But beyond that, I think venue was absolutely fine. Little nuances that I suppose me and Gurps weren't so prepared for is just things like, who's going to sponsor the food and who's going to get the drinks, and it was little things like that you don't think that become something that we've got to deal with, rather than just the agenda and putting people together. But beyond that, I don't think we've had any major challenges at this stage. I think we're very early stages in the journey, Alika, and when we're learning from you guys, which is hopefully we won't be going through as many challenges, but so far I think, Gurps, have you got anything to add?
No, I think so. We've spoken to Jeff and Atlin, etc. as well, because I think you guys have kind of put the path down for us, and we're trying to follow it and learn from it as well. But yeah, we've had a lot of support from working in mortgages, sort of promoting it as well. IMLO were very kind to sort of promote the event for us as well. And I know people at Amy are as well, so we've had a lot of support from a lot of people right across the industry, to be fair. So yeah, we absolutely appreciate that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to come in on the back of the apprentice question, because you said about the cultural nuances of apprenticeships being looked at less. I think you might find now in the younger generation, it definitely is at the top of the agenda. So the more that you can start pushing that and going forward, there is government incentives coming out later this year, so you will actually get paid to have apprentices. But it's an amazing way to bring younger working talent into the industry and give them the support that they actually need. So yeah, I'd advocate you guys getting behind that and speaking to a lot more young people working in mortgages started now. So yeah, let's jump on the back of that.
Absolutely. I think the other key thing, Alika, there as well, is when we talk apprenticeships, we always naturally go to young people But reality is, and I didn't know this, to be fair, until I started the journey with apprenticeships a few years ago, that apprenticeships are open for all. It's people changing industries. It doesn't matter, what age group you are. So the funding, you can have a change of career and you can still go down the road of apprenticeships, which is, there's a lot of people who sadly are becoming redundant or changing careers or, changing lifestyles. So there's actually an opportunity for many. And the trainers are actually qualified mortgage advisors who are within the industry. So it's not just academics, it's actually people within our industry training people, which is good to see as well. It's very bespoke.
And it's wider as well, because the industry doesn't just have brokers, so the apprenticeships are really good to look at as a whole, and there's a lot of support there. So yeah, I think the future is bright.
Yeah,
brilliant.
definitely.
Thank you very much for that. Just conscious of time, so we've got one final request, haven't we, Dina? So I think you're going to do a sales pitch for us.
I'm doing a sales pitch. Right, so before you jump off, all 4950 of us, I need us to scan the QR code. It's the Equity, Diversity, Inclusivity Survey for working in mortgages. And we spoke about being a voice at the table, but we can only be a voice at the table if we participate. So I think I should get paid. It's like an advert. So please scan the QR code, fill out the survey. It's only a few minutes. I've done it. And hopefully we'll get some great outcomes post 22nd of May when the results will be coming. Thank you very much, Sabrina. That's the link there, I think. Just made it easier. In the
Thanks,
chat.
Dina.
We've also got it in the chat.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dina. Massively appreciate it. Thanks to you both for joining today and for hosting and sharing everything that you've shared today. It's been a really good session, so we really appreciate it. Great attendance today as well, so thank you to everybody for joining. The next lunch and learn session is on the 22nd of June at 12 o'clock, and it'll be talking about the role of Pride in Finance, the Pride in Finance Alliance, the role that they're seeking to play within the wider mortgage industry, the progress they've made so far, and actually meaningful allyship for that group also. So please do join us for that session. Once again, thanks very much to Gurps and Dina, and have a good rest of the day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.